right. Good afternoon, Mavericks. Let's go ahead and start our warm-up. So the first thing was you were supposed to go in and graph these points. So letter F, we would start at the origin always. Go over to number 2, up to 4. There we have graphed letter F. To G, we're going to go over -2 up to +4. We would graph that. Over, we start at the origin, we go over to -6, okay, and that would be point H. J is +7 up +3, so we would graph that as J right there. If we go to C, we're going to go over to 5 and then up to 3. Make sure you're checking your work. For D, we would go over -6 up to 4. And for E, we would go over -1 up to 3. So for today's assignment, I want to clarify that, again, we have X, we have Y axis. Make sure you always label that. Today, we're going to be graphing in all 4 quadrants. So make sure that you have a highlighter or a marker so that we can also put our information on there. All right, so let's go ahead and take these notes. As you can see here, we always start at the origin, 0, 0. So if you have your highlighter, go ahead and highlight that. Make sure you start there always, okay? The first letter is X. We're either going to go left to right, or as we say, horizontally. And then second is we're going to climb up and down the stairs for the Y axis. So let's go ahead and label our quadrants. We have quadrant 1, there's 2, 3, and here's 4. We write them in Roman numerals. The way I like to teach my students is we do the refresh button. So we start over here, okay? And as we can see in quadrant 1, these are going to be, again, in the X and Y format. So we have X, we have Y. This is what you're taught the very first thing. Now we go to quadrant 2. What happens here is we're going to have a -X and a +Y. When we go over down to quadrant 3, we're going to see that X is negative and so is the Y. So make sure you write that down. And then quadrant 4, we see that the X is positive but the Y is negative. Okay. So again, make sure that you have those notes, please. Okay. And you know this. All right. So let's go ahead and graph point G. So that's -2 up to +5. I'm going to put it right there. Over to 4, -3. That is H. We're going to check that one off. We have -5, -1. So that right there would be J. And then we have K, which is -3, 0. So over -3, 0. So as we can see, we see the X and we see a Y value there for -3, -0. Put a big star by this, highlight this, because you'll need this for today's assignment. Okay. So because I have a value for -3 on the X axis, it's not in a quadrant. It's actually, again, it has a value for X, so it's going to be on the X axis. Okay. And so make sure that you're able to label that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and write to the side, if you will, with me, A, B, C, D, and E. Okay, and I'm going to put what quadrants they're in. So go ahead and label your quadrants. We have quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. So point A is in quadrant 2. We see how it's -4, +3. B is in quadrant 1. They're both positives. C is in over here in quadrant 3. D is in quadrant 4. It has a +5 or a positive X and then a -1 for Y. And then E is right here on the line. So which line is it? If we were to graph E, we would say that has a value of 0 for X and -2 for Y. So X, Y. So it is on the Y axis, right? So we have X, we have Y. Okay. So again, make sure that you make note of this for your assignment today. Your assignment is on paper, and so the instructions are that you need to go in and do today's assignment on paper. Check your work, only 3 at a time, as usual. No pencils are there. Okay. And then make sure that you are practicing the Math I Excel. I've posted it on the slides. I want you to practice those. Okay. All right, so go ahead right now. Here's your assignment. Make sure that you label your quadrants first. Label your quadrants. Okay. Point A. We're going to start at the origin, 0, 0, and we're going to crawl over to -9. So I have -9 first. Do I go up or down any? Nope, it's on the line. It's on the x-axis. So go ahead and label your x-axis. So that's -9, 0. This is on the x-axis. Okay. If we go look over here, for k would be 4, -2. So I'm going to go over. Again, we have x, we have y. So go over to 4, down to -2. That is going to be k. And that would be in quadrant, hopefully you said 4. Okay. So again, make sure that you complete this. It's super important. Next Monday, we're going to have our PSDI over graphing. It's 3 questions, really quick, and then we're going to start our integers this week with adding on a number line and also adding with counters. And again, we're doing positive and negative numbers, and I will teach you the rules for that. If you are absent, please make sure you're checking the notes and you're doing your assignments. Hope you all have a great day. Thank you for understanding.